Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh, and very good day to everyone. As promised, I'm going to share with you chapter 4 today on planning and strategic management. This is the continuation of the previous chapters that we have discussed on chapter 1, 2, and 3. And chapter 4 is where we delve further into the nitty-gritty details of planning and strategic management. I will also introduce to you some of the tools relevant in making decisions using based on planning and strategic management. So these are the things that we're gonna cover basically today, looking at the steps in planning process, and we'll see how strategic planning, tactical planning, and also operational planning integrates to each other. And we will identify the elements of external environment, internal resources to allow us to formulate a better strategy for the business. And we'll define then what are the core capabilities of a business that provide the foundation for business strategy. And we will also cover a little bit on corporate strategy, business strategy, and also the strategy implementation. Right. So here, basically, I'm going to touch a bit on the basic planning process. As I mentioned earlier, if you refer to any textbook, they're going to have their own processes that involve during planning or for planning purposes. But to sum up, basically, it has these planning processes goes through five steps, basically five different phases. Number one, we are talking about situational analysis. I'm going to share with you later what situational analysis is, or are basically what are the tools that we can use for our situational analysis, and how then we decide to choose for alternative goals and plans for the company, and goal and plan evaluation, goal and plan selection, and eventually implementation. So as I mentioned earlier, plans will just remain plans, and plans will just remain as a dream if it is not being able, if all managers are not being able to translate that plans into implementation. And of course, eventually you need to control, right? Okay. Okay, back to situational analysis. I remember initially or in chapter 1 or perhaps chapter 2, I've already covered some form of environmental analysis, which is also a part of situational analysis that looks into pastel, right? Look into pastel, or some call it PAS, some call it STEEP or STEEP V. So when you talk about situational analysis, it involves both internal and external environment. External environment talks about pastel. Internal environment basically looking into what your strengths are, what are the weaknesses of the particular organization, and how you actually look into your market analysis, consumer analysis, or any departmental or functional analysis that involves your department. Okay, so what we are going to look in situational analysis is basically to look into the SE situation. What is happening now in the organization or outside the organization, so that you can take a note, or basically you can take stock of what are the issues that you are facing and how are you going to address this particular issue and plan for your way forward. Yeah. So let's look into the detail of one of the tools in situational analysis. I've already introduced to you pastel initially on P, political, E, economy, S, social, T, technology, L, legal, and E, environment. Now, STEEP V analysis also talks about those macro environment that impact directly or indirectly the organization, right? Now, the beauty of this tip V analysis is that it includes in the issues or the component of values, and it helps you to really form a proper understanding of what are the elements in the environment that will impact your organization, and how you're going to strategize to overcome this impact, and what will be the outcome of it, right? So basically, STEEP V analysis is introduced by My Foresight. Okay, this is one of the agency or one of the foundation should I say an entity or institution that come up with a lot of contemporary analysis and also tools to look into the future, okay, or to understand your organization better. So my foresight trend scanning framework, one of the scanning framework developed by my foresight is actually STIP-V. And this STIP-V approach is actually, of course, it's acronym that is being taken and also being integrated based on PAS, STIP, STIP-V, PASTEL-V, and subtype. It depends on who coined the word, but eventually it means the same. And generally, these are all similar framework that looks into similar issue. Now, the beauty of STIP-V analysis is it helps you to understand, or it has basically a framework or a matrix to help you understand the activities that is currently going on in the environment that you are talking about, or in the environment that has implications to your particular organization, and what are the outputs of it. Basically, you are now taking stock of what are currently happening outside and how then it will impact or it will benefit your organization. It may not be negative implications all the way. It may has also positive implications or opportunity arise from these changes in the environment. Yeah. So it can be both positive or negative. And the most important thing is how your organization then respond to these particular forces in the environment. So take, for example, social, right? So you now have to understand the social forces or social trends that is happening around you. More importantly, identify the social trend that will impact directly your business. Okay, so one of the example here is you need to discover the issue shaping or threatening, yeah, to upset the balance of your social realm. Issues such as gender imbalance and population aging, for instance, can pose challenges to countries' growth. Okay, so as much as possible, we want to make sure there's balance in terms of the gender composition. It depends on the, what do you call that, the cluster analysis perhaps that you do, and whether this gender imbalance then can affect your organization adversely. Okay, and the output that you will get from this activity of understanding your social environment or social forces is you outline the potential impact of all these social trends and looking at how it will change eventually the pattern of the behavior of potential consumers, okay, or the behavior of your stakeholders as well, yeah, or the behavior of the policymakers. Okay, so what happened in your social environment will have implication to a lot of the interconnected entity within your environment, right? It could be your the macro environment, your pastel environment, or it could be your task environment, which involves your competitors, your suppliers, your consumers, and also your potential new competitors and things like that. Right. Similarly, in technology, you look into how technology overcome current issues. Now, of course, technology poses a lot of opportunity, but it also poses challenges to the organization. Now, if you have a composition of people who are not really technology savvy, or your organization is not being equipped with the right technology, so that will pose challenges to the management as well, because with the disadvantage of not having certain technology may then hinder you from progressing faster to meet the needs and wants of your consumers, right? So as I mentioned earlier on, the consumer expectation, needs, and wants change over time, right? And now the changes is a bit more volatile in the sense that they know There are a lot of competitors who can actually provide them with better service, who can actually provide them with customized services, and they want more personalized services in that manner. So if your organization are not able to integrate all these important technology together to serve your consumer better, so you may be outcompete and you may be obsolete eventually in the industry. Okay, so look into the technology factors that may have direct impact to the organization or that may change the interconnected entity or stakeholders that operates around you. Yeah. And of course, economy, we know for sure we have to observe our economy activities or our economy structure along the way. We need to know that is it the right time for you to invest, perhaps to come up with new, to develop or to establish new store or to set up new, what do you call that, company or things like that related to how economic factor changes the, again, stakeholders around you and changes your ability to invest in certain arena to grow your businesses. So what you need then, what you'll get out of this activity is you identify key economic drivers and players that influence your future landscape. Yeah. Same goes to environment. You need to know what are the things or what are the issue concerning environment that it is happening around you. People talks a lot about going green. People talks a lot about reducing the carbon emission. People talks a lot about ESG, environment, social and governance, changes in SDG. So all these are related to also partly the environment that you are operating. People talks about circular economy now, ways in which you can reduce waste, things like that. So based on your environment analysis, what you'll gather is the environmental challenges to promote sustainability. So one may ask, what does this sustainability has to do with your business? Well, research has shown that it has a lot to do with your business because research shows that customer are prone to associate themselves to organizations or to companies that take care of the environment. Okay, so even though it may seems to be rather remote in terms of its relationship, but eventually it has implications to your business and your operation. Right. What about politics, right? Politics is obviously the changes in the policy, the government, the rules, the law will obviously has impact to your business. The changes in the tax implementation, the the minimum wage policy where you have to make sure whenever you hire anyone, you have to be able to pay minimum 1,200. So how do you play with this kind of changes and how do you make sure that these changes will not impact the cost of your operation, right? So that's on politics. And also, importantly, in step V, it talks about values. Because why? Because when you talk about dealing with people, community, the consumers, these are all people that has values. And you need to see also what are the changes in the beliefs, in their ethical and moral pattern of thinking and whatnot. So, for instance, now you have some kind of output, basically looking at what kind of behavior of these working people. For instance, the preferences to opt for remote working, working from home. Those are also the thing that change in the consumers. Then the requirement or the needs to have work-life balance is also things that is related to value. So you need to know now what are the values of your stakeholders and your potential consumers, and how does their values change over time and how does it impact your organization, your way of your business strategy or your business model, and also the way you run your organization, right? Now, Step 2 involves having all these goals and alternative goals and also plans. So goal, basically, you know, it is self-explanatory, what you target for and what objective do you want to achieve at the end of the day, okay? And plans involve the actions, the strategies that you put into the formula that you put on your action plan matrix to make sure that you can achieve this goal. And of course, there are also some portion of contingency plan should whatever plans that you have in mind doesn't work. So what if situations allow you to create several scenarios of the potential future that you are going to face, yeah? So, and then of course, eventually step number 3, goal and plan evaluation. So once you have already set your goal, obviously in step 2, you may have multiple goals. And of course, you may have multiple plans to achieve the goal. And this is a stage where you do your evaluation. What are the cost, benefit, advantage, disadvantage, potential effects, and whatnot. And during this stage, it is also very important for you to form a diverse group. Remember, I talk about group thinking. Group thinking is the bias that can possibly exist in the organization where the rest of the group members tend to concur and agree with whatever the leaders and the tall character, the dominant character in the group says, because they just don't want to be the outliers, right? So be cautious of this group think and make sure that whatever opinions that you need is you are able to derive the opinion from the diverse group and also from the outer circle of your people within the organization. So what do you do when you do your goal plan to evaluation and also goal plan deriving alternatives for your goal and your plan? So what you need to do, one of the tools that we have in management is what we call as is to be analysis. Okay, so as is means the current situation. To be status means the future or the desirable state that you want to achieve. Okay, so here again, you need to look into your internal analysis. Yeah, you need to be conducting situational analysis again on the problems or the particular issues that you want to address. Okay, so within the organization, you might encounter several issues that you need to address, right? Because we have so many functional areas in a particular organization. But mainly, for instance, you want to look into your marketing initiative to enhance your market share and also to enhance your sales. So you might want to look into the current state. What are the strategy that we are currently implementing? How many people are involved in doing this marketing initiatives or marketing effort? What are the right things that we have done? What are the drawbacks or what are the hiccups and also the challenges that you are facing? And what are the weaknesses in your current or existing process and operation? Okay, so how are you going to then convert the SE situation or SE status into the 2B status, which is the future that you want to achieve or the desired outcome? There are a lot of tools that you require. I mean, if I were to outline the tools in management, there's plenty. But this is the common one that we have, the process mapping. So you want to look at how to fast track your process, or how can you omit the unnecessary process in your operation. So you basically need to draw, right, the process flow and which particular process that you can omit to ensure that the process is faster, or perhaps which particular process in the value chain that you can automate, right? So that you reduce error, you reduce mistake, and also you can fast track the process. So one of the example is the online purchasing, okay, or online payment, right? So the whole idea of having this online payment is if you want to secure your deal. Okay, if you want to close a deal, you want to close your deal fast, because in this VUCA world, remember we talked about it last week, we want to make sure that whatever deal that we have or whatever deal that we are going to negotiate with our consumers, we want to settle or we want to seal it as fast as possible. So how to seal a deal faster? One of it is trying to fast track the process of closing the deal. Okay, and if you allow your customers to pay online upon browsing your goods and services, that will be helpful because they don't have to wait to go to the bank and to pay through the ATM, or perhaps waiting for the waiting for the right time to go and make payment to your particular store. So if you can do it online, you can seal that deal faster and you can secure your sales better, right? So that's process mapping. Now, brainstorming is also another process which is important. Now, brainstorming requires you to, there's certain rules in brainstorming that you need to be aware of. If you are a leader and you want to conduct a brainstorming session, you might be cautious of stopping your people from throwing out ideas. In this brainstorming session, you are not allowed to stop people from talking or from giving ideas, even though the ideas can be very, very wild ideas. Just jot down whatever that they mention, and later on, only you scrutinize the alternatives given to make sure that you can actually prioritize the choices in your alternatives to make better decision. Of course, there's also focus group. We call it FGD, focus group discussion. You want to have diverse people in your focus group as well, so that you will not lose sight of certain important component in your organization or in the process. Okay, so this is to avoid, again, what we call it leadership blind spot, where when we have more people to come and help making decision, so you tend to get perspective from different angles. So that's better for the planning of your desired state. And obviously benchmarking. So we'll talk about benchmarking also later, where you are going to measure yourself against your direct competitors or against the ones that has quite similar characteristic of your organization, right? So doing that benchmarking allow you to understand what's happening from the perspective of your competitors, meaning to say you will be able to gauge what's your competitors are up to at the moment and where you stand as compared to your competitors, right? And in university as well, in higher education, we do have this benchmarking a lot. So every semester, every new semester, new academic session, we will present our benchmarking. Okay, say for instance, the School of Management, how does School of Management stand as compared to other management school or management faculty in other university, be it private university or public university. So we want to benchmark against the number of students that apply to our institution. We want to benchmark against the quality of the students that apply to our institution. And we want to also benchmark against the acceptance of students towards the faculty in other institutions as compared to us. So we do a lot of benchmarking to make sure that we are aware of what's happening outside and we can keep abreast to the development of our competitors. So basically 2B status is to transform the processes at a level that they are easy to understand and implement. So this is your desired future, but your desired future is stated in a manner that is easy for them to, or easy for people to understand. Okay, so here it mentioned the hedgehog concept. So let me just explain a little bit what hedgehog concept means. Now, this is a concept, a very simple concept that is developed by the author of a book called Good to Great. Yeah, I have one there, Good to Great, by Jim Collins. And what he wrote there is very interesting, where in order for the organization to propel and to also make better desired future or desired state that they want to achieve, what they need to know is they need to know what they are deeply passionate about. Okay, what are the current core competencies that they have, what are they good at, okay, and what drives this core competency. So in a nutshell, what it means is, okay, the analogy of hedgehog is compared to the fox a concept. Yeah, now fox is an animal that is said to know everything. Yeah, the fox, if you read the book Good to Great, it says that a fox basically showcases someone who knows a lot of things, okay, has a lot of or has vast knowledge in certain things. But what is different from hedgehog is hedgehog knows one big thing that they can, or he can achieve. Yeah, one thing. Fox knows a lot of things, but hedgehog knows one big thing that it can achieve. Okay, so because of that, the concept of hedgehog is being applied to the book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, and he says that as an organization, you need to have, or you need to develop this hedgehog concept. You need to know what you are really passionate about. Number one, patient. Number two is what you are good at. Okay, what are your core competencies? What are your strong points, right? And eventually, you need to also know what are the things that will drive these core competencies or your patient, okay, to achieve your patient. What are the drivers to achieve this? Okay, so you know your patient, you know your strength, and you need to also know what are the drivers or the elements that will affect your desired goal. Okay, so that is hedgehog concept, looking at one single big thing that you can achieve. Yeah. And then we are talking about S is to B. What do you need to do in S is to B gap analysis is to really want to know the the nitty-gritty details of your organization. So basically, these are the things that is involved in organization: the product or your services, the price, the place, promotion, the people, the process, and the physical environment. So what you need to do in S is to B analysis is where you are now, right? You need to know where you are now and what are the deviations or the gap in terms of where you want to achieve in terms of your market share, in terms of your product quality, in terms of the your promotion exercise, in terms of your people or talent, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So now, once you have got the idea of your goals, you evaluate basically your goals and also your plans. What you need to do now is to actually prepare what we call the goal and plan selection. So this is a time when you are going to prepare the selection of the goals and plans that you have already formulated early on. Which one should be the top priority in your organization or for you to implement. Right. Now, managers will select the option that is most appropriate and feasible. The evaluation process helps identify the priorities and trade-off among goals and plans. So how do you do all this evaluation and selection? And the best strategy being suggested by the strategic management gurus is to plan for the multiple scenarios. Okay. So multiple scenarios talks about what's next, what's going to happen in the future based on the current data that you have and also the understanding of the development or the anticipation of what comes next, right? So scenarios are narrative description of your potential future. So why do you need to develop all this scenario? It's because you can then plan if your organization fall within this scenario, what are the action plan? But if, let's say, the future that you are going to face falls under the other scenario or scenario B, what would be the plans and also the strategies that you need to pursue. Now, to simply put, here is what scenario planning is all about. It is as simple as generating actionable insights by creating small set of scenario for the organization future environment. So you are now looking at what's coming next, right? As each situation talks about what I have now, okay, what are my strengths, what are the achievement of my current areas or functional areas, what are the performance or the KPI like as in the current situation. What are the composition of the talents that I have now? You do your talent mapping and you see, oh, I have this pool of talent that need to be reskill or upskill. So those are the things that you talk about when you look into the SE situation. Now we are doing the scenario planning. We are going to see what's coming next in future, and this is very much important for you to make critical business decision, because remember, we are dealing with the VUCA world, right? When you're dealing with the VUCA world, you need to always have things you have to always plan things or anticipate what's coming so that you can minimize the risk of failure and you can minimize the risk of losing the business in totally. Now, in doing this scenario planning, you have to have this realistic mindset and you have to put together all these relevant uncertainties that might be coming in the future. And why do we need to do scenario planning? Because again, I'm talking about the VUCA world, technology change very fast, the industry structure rapidly change, and the strategy should be able to cater for all this uncertainty, and you need to be quickly and you need to be agile and flexible and responsive to the changes in the environment. And obviously, because you know that the future is so uncertain, in a way to minimize the uncertainty in the future is via scenario planning and also anticipating what's coming next, right? So success factors of for scenario planning is to get the questions right. I'll show you in a while one of the example that I have here. You need to be broad and comprehensive as possible. You need to balance between what is plausible. Plausible is what is realistic, what is the future that you possibly can achieve. Okay, plausible is talking about being realistic yet being ambitious. Okay, of course you need to stretch your thinking because you want to be at the same time ambitious and be able to take calculated risks. Otherwise, you will maintain status quo. Bringing in external perspective, yes, it is very important because again, as I mentioned to you, if you keep on asking questions from your inner loop, you may lose sight of the bigger perspective that might impact your organization. And you need to create compelling stories, yeah? So I'll show you an example of the stories that we create for our scenario planning, and also focus on effective communication because it is good to have multiple scenario and also to anticipate what possible future that you are going to face. But most importantly, you need to be able to communicate to your people well, whether they understand or not the scenario that you are anticipating the organization or the organizations are going to face. Possible objective of scenario planning, right? So all these are the reason, basically, bottom line of this scenario planning is to make sure that you are able to manage the volatile, the uncertain, the complex, and the ambiguous future that that is going to that the organization is going to face. Basically, yeah, that the organization is going to face. So please read through these do's and don'ts that basically repeating what I mentioned earlier. But what is important is now for you to understand the structure of the scenario that you are going to prepare for your scenario planning. So again, when you talk about scenario planning, you need to know the present. Okay, the present talks about what are our current action, what are our current performance, what are the ritual messages that we have been conveying to our people. What do we have now at present? Okay, when you talk about the future, it is a shift from talking just about what we can see or what we can do now. It's a shift towards what's going to happen next and what kind of future that we are going to experience next, and how do we plan for these types of the future that we are going to encounter, right? Now, it is not just about your past or your present, or your present and the future. It is also involving the very specific and concrete, tangible things that you can see, right? Tangible things that you can see and you can understand. But it also involves something that is so abstract and generic, meaning the uncertainty, the driving forces, the challenges posed by the external environment, as in pastel of Steve V. So what are those? It is so hard to gauge because we are not yet there, but we can anticipate based on perhaps our reading, our understanding of the research that we are doing, the environmental scanning, what we see, the current development, the trend, and there's a lot of report on the forecasting of your future. So you need to be able to grab all this information to prepare for your scenario planning. So what really scenario planning look like, right? Okay, this is what we prepare actually for our higher education or for our university when we first when MCO is first announced in 2020, or when we first note that there's a thing called COVID-19. Okay, so we are worried. Why we are worried? We are worried about the current students. What's going to happen to our students? What's going to happen to our future intake? Will students be able to come in, or should we do distance learning and also go online straight away, or should we stop investing in other things that we have already planned before for education? What about our international students? Should we allow them to take one semester leave because they couldn't really come and they couldn't really enjoy the lecture or the education, because they are all located in so many regions. If it is the region that have similar time zone with Malaysia, that's not that bad. What about those from the Middle East, from the Europe, with different time zone altogether? When we are sleeping, they are awake. When they are awake, we are sleeping. So how do we manage all this? And the Vice Chancellor asked us, no, why not we do some kind of scenario planning to make sure that once we have got this scenario, we know what are the plans that we need to put in place, and we can actually forecast our income generation to the university. So these are the scenario that we develop together with some of the expert in economics, finance, and whatnot. So we put in a very simplified manner: mild, bad, outrageous. Okay, so you can name your scenario whatever that you like, and reflecting the situation that you are going to tell, or the story that you're going to tell. So we put it mild. Mild means we will get vaccine very soon. So this is just before we know when vaccine is coming, and we have to suddenly close the university, go to MCO, shop are closed. So we don't know what's coming next. Borders are closed, and how do we manage our student? Okay, so the scenario is, if let's say we get our vaccine early, perhaps we are going to recover very quickly, because everything is depending on the vaccine at that particular time. So once vaccine is announced, then it takes, the other issue is how long can we reach herd immunity, where at least 80% of our people are being vaccinated fully, right? So we have mild scenario where we get vaccine very quickly, we can reach herd immunity very fast, economy can recover very quickly, and employment is not that bad, and SMEs can then start to recover ASAP, or as soon as possible. And that's why it is in V shape. We move downwards because everything is closed during MCO. We are not sure what's happening. Economic was hit tremendously, and then we bounce back very quickly. So that's very mild. Now, when the situation is bad, we call it U-shape, because we will be at the bottom, at the rock bottom a bit too long. Okay, why are we in that situation? because vaccine is announced late, herd immunity is being, we are not able to get herd immunity as soon as possible. Economy is still very being hit tremendously. Mobility is restricted. Employment rate go down to the drain. So things like that creates our scenario. We name our scenario as bad. So in this bad scenario, what do we do with our operation? Okay, and of course the outrageous scenario is the L shape. L shape is you go down very quickly and you stay at the rock bottom longer than expected. That hit the economy tremendously, hit the unemployment, even hit the traveling of our international students. That will affect our what do you call that, education system. Yeah, so this is one of the way in which you can develop your scenario planning. So you can name it whatever you like based on the ones that is relevant to your company, and you can create whatever scenario that it is very much related to your company. So that's why the first thing about scenario planning is you need to know what is important, get the right question to answer. Okay, this part, the success of the scenario planning is to get the right question to be answered. So if you don't know what question to be answered, or what problem to be addressed, or what are the needs of your organization to conduct the scenario planning, you will go haywire. You will just go into many places that is not really focused, and eventually you couldn't really gauge the right scenario of your future. Yeah. And of course, eventually implementation is very important. I've repeatedly mentioned it. If planning remains a plan, it is just a dream, remains a dream without any attainment of your objective or your goal. Okay, so with planning come implementation or execution. So they complement each other. Good planning, great implementation, you will see the results faster. Brilliant planning, no implementation, you will go nowhere. It is just status quo. So, of course, after implementation, you have to monitor and control. Remember POLC, planning, organizing, putting the right resources to the right place, leading, making sure that your people understand where you are heading. And finally, C, controlling or monitoring. Without this monitoring and controlling, you are not sure whether you achieve or you can achieve what is the intended goal or the intended objective. So these need to be in place so that you know whether you are on track or whether you are off tangent. Yeah. And obviously, in strategic management, we have strategic planning. So this is basically set of procedures in making decision in the organization to make sure that you are able to make short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan. And normally, when you talk about strategic planning, you are talking about long-term survival of your company or your business, right? And the term long-term varies depending on industry. So if you are in an industry that changes very rapidly, that is affected by pastel very rapidly, so you need to plan your long term, maybe 2-3 years only, or maybe 1 year, right? Because the changes that is happening outside will impact your business straight away. That would be things like if you're in technology industry, technology related industry, you will have very short long-term planning. Okay, but if you are in the F&B industry, food and beverages industry, your long-term plan can reach up to 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, or even 10 years, because the volatility in food and beverages industry is not as bad as the volatility in the technology oriented industry or technology driven industry. Okay, so that's basically things that you need to know about strategic planning and long-term survival or long-term vision. So what are the questions that you need to ask or you need to answer? Where will we be active? So these are all strategic planning. Where are we going to venture into? Okay, which area, which arena do we want to play, or which arena do you want to venture into? How do we get there? Okay, so you know your target now. The next question is how to get to that target, right? So that's strategic planning. And when you know how to get to the target, you should also answer the question of how do I outcompete my competitors, or how do I gain the highest market share in my industry. Okay, and once you have that, you also need to think of how fast do I move, right? So people talk about working hard, all right? Work hard, work smart. So which one is better? Is it work hard is better or work smart is better? For me, you need both, right? You work hard because you want to get the best result. Okay, so that's why you work hard. You try to get all the information ready. You make sure that you got all your strategies right. You make sure that you got all the team right. So you work hard to make sure the resources is there and your plans is there and your strategies are there. Now, what about working smart? Working smart is you need to think fast on how to achieve the best result, the fastest, as fast as possible. Which fastest route that you can choose to achieve that best result. Okay, so we need both work smart and work hard, or work hard and work smart, right? And then you have to also think of how do you get your revenue. Okay, how do you get your financial return? Okay, this is talking about your revenue stream, where how can I get money from the product or services that I introduce to the market, right? Yeah, these are the questions. And hierarchy, obviously, that's why if you look at the hierarchy of goals and plan and the time horizon, it says that long term can be 3 to 7 years or 3 to 10 years, depending on what? Depending on which industry you are in. If you're if the industry that you are in are exposed to fast, quick, dynamic changes of the environment, right? So you need a shorter long-term period or a shorter long-term plan. Okay, maybe 3 years or 2 years perhaps. Yeah. So that's what you need to know as a leader, and that's why you need to know your industry. It is not common for a long-term plan in a technology-based industry. It is not readily mapped onto a long-term plan for F&B industry, because the dynamism of the industry are different, yeah. And tactical talks about middle, low, okay, medium term, 1 year plan, 2 year plan, what you want to do. And operational, of course, talks about the lower level of it, the administration of it, the process of it. So you normally deal with the frontliners, the operators, and the details are very you need to be meticulous about the details, because the SOP must be clear. You know, the standard operating procedure, the processes all need to be outlined, and those are things that we call it as short-term plan, or the time horizon would be less than 6 months or 1 year. Now, we talk about strategic planning, looking at the long-term vision, and we talk about tactical planning, looking at the medium-term planning, and also operational planning, that it is a very short-term kind of planning that involves the procedure and the processes at the lower level of the organization. Now, this is a good strategy map. I find it very interesting, and you can do this for your own organization as well, or maybe for your own department. So you need to know the long-term value or the long-term goal, or perhaps what we call the North Star, the true north that you want to achieve. Okay, say for instance, in this company, what they want to achieve is productivity and also revenue growth. Productivity in terms of reducing the expenses, reducing the cost, and increasing the efficiency of your people to complete certain tasks or processes. Revenue growth, you want to venture into new market, you want to come up with new product, you want to increase value to the customers, and you want to also penetrate new market segment. Okay, because why? Because these are meant for your revenue growth, right? So then you come down to your goals, your customer goals. What are the customer goals that you need to prepare for? So this involves perhaps operational excellence to obtain productivity growth, reduce cost and increase efficiency. You need your operational section to be very excellent in terms of coming out with quality product, speedy delivery, and also competitive pricing. And obviously, for customers, you need to have more customer intimacy, or you need to have your customer centricity, to make sure that you provide the best service and the best solution to the customers and the added value, things that the customers are looking for. And how do you generate revenue then? You generate revenue by making sure that your product is the leading product in the market. How to be a leader in the market? The product functionality, the features must be right, the performance must be right. So it's a combination of functions and features and performance altogether. Now, what about the internal goals that you have to prepare? If you want to make sure that your strategic map is nicely aligned, the internal values, always you have innovation. Innovation talks about what kind of processes that you can improve. How do you improve the quality of the product? And you want to also enhance the customer value and operational improvement, because that is so important for the customers. And also you want to focus on customer or corporate citizenship. Corporate citizenship talk about how you maintain that good relationship with your stakeholders. Okay, so all these are very crucial to achieve your customer goals before you attain your financial goals. And then what about learning and growth? So in order to achieve all those, you need to have competent people. So focus on your talent development. What's next? You need to have the right system. Then focus on the adoption of technology to fast track the process or to automate the process, whichever that can or meet the that can reduce the cost and that can also make you function more efficiently, right? And also to embed in the supportive values and practices. So this is a very nice map that I often use internally also for my own planning, to make sure that whatever I have, the people that I have is being led towards the internal goals and internal values, lead towards how we target to our stakeholders and clients, and eventually attain the financial goals, or perhaps in education system is to attain the nation building goals that we have. So these are also among other types of analysis or strategic management process, and it involves basically what I mentioned to you earlier on, MOST analysis, MOST analysis, as well as the situational analysis. So you need to know your mission, your vision, your SWOT, your internal strength on opportunities, and then you can translate that into strategy formulation, implementation, and control. So again, it is, please remember, in management mainstream, when you discuss, we always come back to POLC framework, the planning part. So which part is the planning part here? The planning part is where you plan for your mission, your vision, right? And which part is about planning? Also understanding your situational analysis and also your core competencies. Those are involved in strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. So which part is O? O is when you have that plans ready, how you organize your resources, who do what, how much to allocate to which department, right? So that is based on your planning. L, P-O-L. Now, L is leading. Communicate your plan, communicate your vision, communicate your strategy well to your people. If you can't get your people to come together and work towards the goal that you want to achieve, you will not be able to achieve the earlier mission, vision, goal that you have already set during your planning stage. Okay, P-O-L, that's L, leading. C, controlling. So controlling talks about monitoring your plan, whether you are on the right track or you have gone off tangent. If you go off tangent, what are the intervention that you need to put in place? What are the things that you need to do to bring back the team and to bring back your plans to be aligned to the mission and vision and goal? Yeah. So go back to your POLC framework that I mentioned earlier in chapter 1. Okay, so I mentioned about mission, strategic vision, trying to set your true north, trying to set what you want to achieve eventually. When you talk about long term, again, as I mentioned, long term in which industry? if your industry, if the industry that you are in doesn't really encounter dynamic changes, volatile environment, then your long-term plans could be 5 to 7 or 10 years. If you are operating in a very volatile environment, your long-term plans could be only 2-3 years, right? So those are things that you need to understand before you set your own mission and vision. Okay, most analysis I've already explained in chapter 1 basically, but just to recap, most analysis talks about M, mission, O, objective, S, strategy, T, tactics. Now, how does that relate to the pyramid of the organization? Mission is often set by the strategic level, those at the top of the pyramid, the top management. What about objectives and strategy? Objective and strategy is being cascaded down or being formulated by those at the middle management. Okay, and also tactics will then be cascaded down to those at the bottom level of management or the operational level. So it goes in a pyramid. The higher you are, the more strategic, the more abstract things that you have to face. The middle management talks about strategy, tactics, and plans to achieve the mission and the vision of the organization set by the top management. The operational level implement the tactics and also the operational plans that has been outlined for the organization. Yeah, so that's how it works in most analysis. And then, of course, analyzing external opportunities and threats. I already explained to you. There are so many things that you can do in analyzing external opportunities and threats. As I mentioned, pastel, you can do steep V, you can do PAS, or you can also do SWOT under opportunity and threats to match the opportunity and threats to the strength and weaknesses. Yeah. And once you have analyzed your internal strength and weaknesses, okay, these are some of the examples. Of course, it depends on the organizations that you are in and the department that you are in. What kind of analysis that you want to do to make sure that you understand your department better and to understand your organizational better. We do that a lot too in higher education now because of the limited funding that we get from the government. So we need to find our own money to pay the EMOD, to pay our salary. So we have to also think of how we can generate income for the university via consultancy, via training, and other form of related core business that we are in. And then we do a lot of auditing as well to see whether are we optimizing our effort, are we optimizing our marketing team, our marketing initiatives, do we optimize our financial and the talents that we have in the organization. When you look at the processes that we do, how can we minimize or how can we fast track our processes that involves perhaps the recruitment or the selection of students coming in, registration, exam process, and things that involve our core business, right? So then, of course, in strategic management, it is not just about external things that you need to look at. It is also about your internal strength and weaknesses. So how do we know our internal strength and weaknesses? We look at our resources, right? We look at our resources, and as what I suggested just now, in terms of understanding your core capabilities, you know, the hedgehog concept just now, understanding your key strength, how you want to leverage your key strength, and what are the drivers, what are the factors that may impact your key strength to achieve your passionate goal. Okay, so do that under resource and core capabilities to understand what you are good at. And normally we look at this VRIO analysis or VRIN analysis. So what are those? What are VRIO or VRIN? It is actually a concept coined by Michael Porter to encourage organization to achieve competitive advantage. Okay, so eventually with this VRIO, we want to achieve competitive advantage. So V stands for valuable. Valuable means does our product, services, our resources, financial, human, material, non-material are valuable as compared to others. Okay, are they rare, meaning unique to you, while others don't have that? What are the uniqueness of your resources and capabilities? Is it easily imitatable, or is it not easily to be imitated? Kalau if it is easy to be copied, imitate means to copy. Now, if it is so easy for the competitors to copycat your strategy, or to copycat your resources and capability, so it is not really sustainable. Organized, or what we call it, non-substitutable. You can't change, that's the capabilities that you have is very organized and very structured, that it helps you to improve your competitive advantage. Then the answer is yes, and then only you start to use the most promising resources that you have within the organization to plan for your strategy map, right? What are your strategy map? Okay, you go back to this diagram just now that I show you, your strategy map. So this is where you identify your core competencies and try to use or leverage on your core competencies to achieve the sustainable competitiveness. All right, so moving on. Okay, this is a summary of VRIO. As I mentioned just now, valuable, R rare, I inimitable, O is organized, right? So this is one of the example of VRIO analysis done by Starbucks. So what are their resource and capability? Meaning their strength, their strong point, right? Their resource or their core capability is their strong point. Presence, strong presence globally. So is it valuable if you have strong presence? Yeah, yes, it's valuable. It's very rare. It's not easy for others to compete because you have your strong brand name, not just internally, but also not just locally, but also globally. Is it inimitable? Inimitable is not easily being copied. Yes, it is not easy because you need to put a lot of effort to be visible in the global arena. Is it organized? Yes, it is organized because, it is non-substitutable. It is not easy for other people to substitute Starbucks coffee with others because you have strong global brands. So what is impact for your competitive advantage? You have sustainable competitive advantage, meaning it's good. You can stay in the long run. You have good brand name. People love your product. People love your services. So you are in good hands. But what about your specialty coffee? Okay, in terms of presence, yeah, you don't have to worry. You have strong presence. What about your specialty? Valuable, yes. A lot of people, though this is based on their survey, perhaps based on their research. The Starbucks coffee has a strong specialty. But is it rare? Not quite, because we have several other substitute coffee that is similar to Starbucks. So it's not that rare. We can always substitute Starbucks coffee with perhaps coffee bean. We can also substitute that with, what else do we have? Francisco coffee. Yeah? So not rare, inimitable, not quite, because people can copy. It's easy for others to copy your formula and your secret recipe. Is it organized? Yes. Specialty coffee is is organized in that manner. So how does it impact? Then the impact is on realized competitive parity. You don't really reach sustainable competitive advantage, but you only reach up to the realized. Yeah, we have competitive advantage, but not at the not at the fullest level that we want. Now, what about the resources or your capability to upskill and also to prepare or to offer your consumers cozy environment, yeah? Good ambience, cozy place where you can do your work with facility of Wi-Fi and also other form of utilities. Yes, it's valuable. Yes, it's rare. Is it totally not imitable? No, it's easy for people to copy still because it's just changing the structure of the environment, putting more features or offering more services, better services to the customers in their own store. So in that scenario, it says temporary competitive advantage because in most instances, there are direct competitors or indirect competitors who can actually imitate your product. So this is the kind of VIO analysis that we can do, or you can do to your organization once you know the strong point, okay, your resources or your capability in the organization. Okay, and of course, eventually, I mentioned just now, that's also part of benchmarking that you can do. So what are the things that it is most effective when do benchmarking? You need to choose your KPI wisely, what you want to achieve and how you're going to measure that. You need to know who are your direct competitors, who are those best in the class, or who possibly could be the disruptor that will come in and disturb the industry. Yeah, so you need to know who you want to benchmark with, and also you need to define what measure do you want to benchmark, and also then track the performance of your goal against your competitor, right? So these are among the what do you call that, benchmarking types. We can do internal benchmarking. If you want to do it internally among your own departments, or here in USM, what we do is we benchmark among the faculty that we have within the university to see our strength and our weaknesses, and also to see where we stand as compared to our other counterparts. Yeah. So if it is external benchmarking, you are looking at your direct competitors, the one that is best in your class or in your industry, and the potential industry disruptor. Okay, so SWOT analysis, I will not going to repeat. I already covered that on before, and I also discussed on corporate strategy, business strategy, and functional strategy that looks into the pyramid of the management, and also the corporate strategy. There's so many corporate strategy you can do here. Vertical integration. Vertical integration means you here it means that you integrate with the potential distribution channel. Vertical integration also talks about upstream and downstream. If it is downstream, you are integrating yourself with your supplier, right? That's what KFC is doing now. Our KFC by QSR Brands in Malaysia, what they do is, in order to ensure that they get the good supply of the chicken for their KFC, yeah, for their Kentucky Fried Chicken, what they do is they invest in the poultry farming. So they rear their own chicken so that they can check on the quality, the size, and also the obviously the standard of the chicken that they use to transform into your fried chicken. Okay, so they also have their own farm of potato to make sure that the juiciness and everything is taken care of. So these are all what we call vertical integration. You venture into the resources and the supply. You ensure that your supply is of good quality and standard because you own it. You also venture into the distribution channel so that you can control the number of distribution channel, and also the uncertainty perhaps that can be posed if you did not own the distribution channel. An unrelated industry means you venture into an area that is not related to you. One example is Samsung. Okay, so Samsung is one of the biggest conglomerate in the world. If I remember correctly, I read it in 2019. It's one of the biggest conglomerates in the world because Samsung not just own telecommunication. Samsung also owns the pharmaceutical or health in equipments and industry. It also owns theme park. Yeah, it also owns the education. What do you call that? It also venture into education and whatnot. So what they do is, when you talk about diversification, you venture into so many areas that it is not your core area. Okay, so they start off with telecommunication. No, they start off with not telecommunication. They start off with electrical equipment, right? They start off with refrigerator, washing machine, TV and whatnot, that venture into telecommunication industry, and then they diverse into health product and also entertainment industry and whatnot, right? So that's diversification in unrelated industry. Okay, so then we move on to corporate strategy on BCG metric. BCG metric is Boston consulting group that come up with these metrics to help company to understand their value of their product. Okay, so here we have the market growth on the one hand, the y-axis. X-axis talks about your position in the industry. Say for instance, your position now is very weak and market growth is very weak, meaning to say you are nowhere generating profit to the company, or you are just maintaining status quo. You are not so good and you are not penetrating new market, you are considered as dogs, right? If you are strong, meaning you are very strong in competitive position and your market growth seems to have, yeah, not too high, but still acceptable, it is what we call cash cow. You generate more profit now. Cash cow is when you strategize to generate as much profit as possible at this particular time because you have already reached your saturated market, and try to recoup the cash from your competitive position. This is an example of GE, General Electric company in United States. So they have it is a conglomerate. They venture into healthcare, they venture into aviation, they have GE Power, they also have GE Renewable Energy. And with these variations in their product, you can see now that where they stand. So if you're talking about GE Power, so you know now if it is there in that quadrant, in the purple quadrant, the competitive position, meaning they are strong in the industry above all other competitors, and there are more market potential. No, there's still potential for growth. So this is what we call the star. Okay, the star quadrant. The star quadrant allows you to bring a lot of benefit or a lot of profit to the company, and you still have potential to grow further. And finally, question mark means you are not quite sure whether you are weak. You're not quite sure in terms of your competitive position because there's so many competitors now, but the potential for market is high because people are talking about going green, going environmental friendly, reducing carbon emission. So renewable energy is an in thing. But for now, under GE, under General Electric Company, they are not as competitive as other competitors. So for question marks, you need to find ways how to outcompete the other competitors. So the plan is as such, yeah. So these are among the strategy that companies can use, and functional strategy, looking at all the functional areas that I mentioned earlier on, know what you need to do within your functional areas management, and then implementation of the plans that you have generated, and finally, control system. Okay, so those are the things that I need you to understand for our strategic management, and I hope you can gauge, you can learn some of the tools that are important for you to come up with your strategic planning for the organization. And I'll just stop up to that point. If you have any questions, feel free to ask via our e-learn, or you can text me via our WhatsApp group, or you can also ask during our subsequent session. Yeah. So thank you and happy listening to the session.